Welcome back to Preps Today with John Millea. The star of the show is John Millea from the MSHSL. You can read his written work at John's Journal at mshsl.org. And you hear his spoken word artistry here. I love that John gets a kick out of me saying spoken word artistry.
I do.
I say it as often as I can. This is our Prep Sports show at talknorth.com. We've also added Randy Shaver's high school football show, which is a big hit. Check that out as well, plus all the great sports and outdoor content with the best sports lineup in town. We do appreciate you listening. We are here because of people like Jody Stay and Pizza Barn in Princeton, our longtime sponsor, and we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. Best way to listen to this show or any show you like at the network, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. And now let's get to a recurring topic.
Yes.
John's holiday shutdown feedback.
Yeah, last week, Jim, we talked about this idea I had about could we possibly agree that shutting down high school sporting events for a week around Christmas makes sense for families. And, and like I said last week, I'm going to say it again. I don't want anybody to get their, in a ringer. This is not on the high school league agenda. This is not a discussion topic at any meetings. There's no committee studying this. This is my brain and my little pea brain and nothing else. I just think it's something worth considering. So I got a lot of feedback. I had posted on social media about it, got a lot of feedback. The podcast, I got some pretty good feedback. I'm going to read an email from someone I don't know, but who responded to that item on last week's podcast, Robert Bustler. I don't know Robert. Clearly, he listens to the podcast. He sent a really nice, I thought, thoughtful email. I'm going to read Robert's email. Bear with me. Here you go. John, on today's pod, you talked about a sports shutdown over the holidays. We're about the same age, but since you were from Iowa, I'm not sure this happened there back when we were in high school. Because of the 1974 oil crisis, schools were closed over the holidays. I'm going to interject. Schools are always closed over the holidays, but I think this means for a longer period.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the email. No school activities and heating temps were lowered to save fuel. My senior year in 1976, we had a post-Christmas game for the first time in 2-3 years. For a parent and former traveling coach that chased the games in high school and college, I would have loved to have had a break. My son would have disagreed with this break, but my dad loved it because they got 3 sons to work construction for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Love the show and don't retire. Close quote. Thanks, Robert. Robert Bustler sent that to me. I do. You and I are old enough to remember the 70s, Jim, when there were gas lines and all that. I wasn't old enough to drive, but I remember my dad whining about it. I'm not going to mention it again. It's not going to be on the pod next week. I mean, if something happens, along this lines, I'll pick it up again, but it's just something I wanted to get people thinking, especially over the holidays. But thanks to Robert. He's a year older than me, and maybe old timers like he and I think alike. So I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah. And I thought it was a great idea that you brought it up. I agree with you wholeheartedly. As I said last week, I think it'd be fun to have the occasional practice over Christmas break, but the games, they're just too intense, especially the tournaments that can last all day, every day. I think you're onto something. I hope people listen to you.
Yeah. Another thing that came in other feedback were coaches saying that would be awesome. We still would like to practice and we could have so much fun. Mm-hmm. At those practices. If we don't have a game in the next day and 2 days after that, we could do some special things. So, yeah, I think I don't know if there's legs on these holiday tournaments and all this stuff over the holidays is pretty ingrained in Minnesota. And, we'll see. We'll just see what happens. I'm leaving it out there.
And then that is another comment I agree with completely. When I would run holiday practices and there wasn't a game coming up, then you could have more fun. You could play more pickup ball. You could try different stuff. You could practice with less structure, which I love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of upside.
Yes. All right, let's get to the Pride of Proctor.
Yeah, Jim, as you and I know, we are old time newspaper people. I had a wonderful time. I spent a couple days in Proctor last week up on the outskirts of Duluth. I'd never been to Proctor High School. I'd been to their football and baseball facility. They've got just a giant sheet of turf that's connected. I've been up there for the Hammer game when Proctor and Hermantown play each other in football. The traveling trophy is a giant wooden railroad hammer. And I'll get to the railroad theme here in a minute. But I went up there. I watched a boys basketball game between Proctor and Duluth-Denfeld. The next morning before 8 a.m., I was in a classroom at Proctor High School. And Nathan Johnson is a friend of mine. He's a coach up there, and he's the newspaper advisor of the student paper. If you go to John's Journal at mshsl.org, you can read about the Proctor Millea. Now, I thought for years it's the mallet, Mallet. It's the Millea, and Nathan explained it to me. It's a railroad term. Proctor is an old-time railroad town. The high school teams, they're the rails. The school logo is a locomotive. During the basketball game, when the band plays the school song, somebody's ringing a railroad bell, which is just the coolest. It's like the train's coming through the gym. And a Millea, I had to Google it. It's a specific type of steam locomotive. So, 120 years ago, I don't know how long they've had a school, but the newspaper is 99 years old. The Millea at Proctor, 99-year-old school newspaper. It's still printed. It's a printed newspaper. There's 17 kids right now in the journalism class that Nathan runs. It meets every day at 8 a.m. They have editors. They have photographers. It's a printed paper. It's a monthly, so it's almost like a magazine. And I asked us on social media, and I made some inquiries to some folks who I thought would know, and I haven't heard back. But how many high schools in Minnesota produce a printed student newspaper? A lot of them do have school papers. They're online. This is a whole different thing. They've been printing a school newspaper at Proctor for 99 years. And here's the greatest thing of all. For the past 51 years, the advisors have been Nathan Johnson, who's there now. Before him, his dad, Phil, was a teacher there, who was the newspaper advisor. 51 years out of the 99, father and son have been the advisors to this student newspaper. It's really a neat deal. I talked to Phil. He came in to chat with me after class, asked him about what it was like, when he started doing this 40-some years ago. He said most of the students wrote their newspaper articles in longhand. Then the student editors would type them. Then the typewritten pages would be sent to the Proctor Journal, the actual real weekly newspaper, which prints the student paper. And the linotype operator, you and I know what that is, at the Proctor Journal would get them typeset. The galleys would come back to the school. They would make corrections, send them back to the printing shop. And now everybody's got laptops and so, the digital cameras. Phil laughed. He talked about how many rolls of film got wasted every month. And you just cross your fingers, you're going to get some usable photos. So it was really cool. And, someone like me, I've been doing work in journalism for more than 50 years, starting when I was in high school. It was really cool for me to spend time talking with the kids. I basically interviewed them, and then they asked questions of me about my job and different things I've done. And boy, people complain about kids these days. I'm so encouraged, and I've said this many times, I'm so encouraged about the future when I spend time with high school kids and teachers like Nathan Johnson and Proctor, who just, it's unbelievable that the difference a great teacher can make. And these kids are getting a great experience. And I just drove home from Proctor with a smile on my face. So thanks to Nathan and Phil and all those guys on the Millea staff for treating me so well. I'm a big fan of everything in Proctor.
You're doing my heart some good here, John. A printed newspaper and journalism and great kids. What a great combination.
And they do such a good, thorough job. It's basically 4 newspaper pages. There's editorials. There's movie reviews. There's stories about the happenings in school. There's like a full back page of sports stuff. And it's really something. It's really a cool deal. I wish everybody could get their hands on a copy.
Well, I would not have had the career I had if not for my high school newspaper that encouraged me to write and maybe fall in love with that business. I just don't think I would have gone down that road if it hadn't been for a good high school newspaper and a fun job.
Yeah, same here. I grew up in a little isolated rural town in Iowa. There wasn't a daily newspaper for 100 miles in any direction, I don't think. And, I didn't have any real journalists to talk to other than the sports guys from the radio stations in surrounding towns. But I've told this story 1,000 times. I'm a sophomore in high school. My English teacher, Mrs. White, came to me, said, "Hey, the lady who runs the weekly newspaper in town's looking for a student to write stories about the football game." She said two things to me. "You're on the football team, and you can do this." And I can. Really, I can. So, for my last 3 years of high school, I was a sports writer for a weekly paper. I didn't make a nickel, but boy, good experience. And then you realize you can do this for a living, and away we go. And here it is, 51 years later, I'm still doing it. So I think of Mrs. White just about every day, Jim, because of that little 5-minute interaction in a 15-year-old's life. That's pretty important.
That's fantastic. For me, I was a runner in high school. The high school paper didn't cover the cross-country and track teams. And so I went and I said, "Hey, we would like some coverage." He said, "Well, why don't you do it?" I was like, not me. I can't do that. But that's how I got my start, just writing little 3-inch updates on what the track and cross-country things are doing. But, when at that age, I'm well beyond this now, but at that age, it was quite a kick to see your byline in the paper.
It really was. And I tell people, I was a lineman on the football team. My name was not in any of these stories, but it said by John Millea at the top of every story. Yeah, that's a pretty good ego boost for a slightly insecure teenager.
I was very insecure, so it worked for me too. All right, let's get to, we're going to get to Thank a Ref. We're going to think of spring, and we're going to get to John's and MSHSL's most valuable teammate. I love that standalone, that set piece we do every week here. First, though, I want to remind you we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. And once again, let's thank Jody Stay and Pizza Barn in Princeton.
You bet. It's 2025, the pizza of the month for January at the Pizza Barn in Princeton. It's the New York style triple pepperoni. That sounds good to me. I'm a sausage pizza guy, but if you throw sausage and pepperoni on there, you got me. This one comes with regular pepperoni as well as sandwich pepperoni. They can drizzle some hot honey on it if you'd like for a small charge. And remember to check out the Pizza Barn's fantastic lunch buffet every weekday, Monday through Friday from 11:30 to 1:30. You'll find different things every day, delicious options on the buffet. This Thursday, for example, Chef Shorty is making beef brisket enchiladas. That is up my alley. Ooh. That sounds pretty. Why I may head up there on Thursday. I'm going to admit it. But yeah, thanks to Jody Stay, her great crew at the Pizza Barn, for more than 4 decades of outstanding service. They're an institution in Princeton. And when you stop by, tell them Jim and John said to say hi.
Yes, thank you so much, Jody. We do appreciate it. All right, let's get to a couple of our set pieces and also some spring talk. Let's thank a ref first.
Yeah, Jim, this is a neat deal. The National Federation of State High School Associations, the Minnesota State High School League, is a member of that group, as is every similar organization in all 50 states. They do a lot of social media work. Occasionally, they post brief videos from officials around the country. It's officials just talking about what they appreciate about being an official, encourage others to join their ranks. I think about a week ago they had posted a video from someone I know pretty well, Jen Myers. She's a very, very excellent track and field official here. She's from St. Paul. I've known Jen for a few years. She's a delight. She's a great person. And I saw the video, and it reminded me of a story I wrote about her a few years ago, basically detailing how Jen became an official. And I reposted that at John's Journal on mshsl.org, along with a link to the video from the National Federation. As her track career, I think she was either winding down her college track career. She might have even been helping coach at some point. She noticed one of the officials was someone she recognized who'd worked a ton of her meets as a high school and college runner, Dan Dornfeld. is his name. Dan's another guy I know well. He's a legendary figure in track and cross country as an official. She approached him and just started chatting, and he basically said, we got to get you started into the officiating ranks. And she did. And now she's one of the top officials in the state. And like I said, if you go to John's Journal at mshsl.org, you can read that story from, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. And there's a link to the video as well.
Excellent. All right, good stuff. All right, let's get to thinking of spring.
Okay, I'm going to return to Proctor and Nathan Johnson, the newspaper advisor. He's also the boys track coach. That's how I first got to know him. He and I were talking during the basketball game. We're sitting watching the game, chatting about a lot of things, including how bad the weather can be in Minnesota for spring sports. We put our heads together. He's a track coach. I'm a graduate of Drake University, home of the Drake Relays, Drake Stadium, which is the Wrigley Field of track in this country. We came up with an idea. Why doesn't my alma mater, Drake University, and the Drake Relays host an all Minnesota high school track and field? And just, it's not that far. Des Moines not that far away, even from Proctor. And the weather can be quite a bit nicer in Des Moines than especially in northern Minnesota. They can sell tickets. They can cover the rent. Schools will send their teams. We'll send Minnesota officials down there. How many officials would love to just volunteer to drive to Des Moines in the morning, work a track meet, enjoy some nicer weather? Maybe we can even get my friends Jen Myers and Dan Dordfeld down there. This is clearly outside the box. I have a lot of outside the box ideas, but if there's a great stadium, a world-class stadium, few hours south in much better weather than we're probably having here, let's load up some buses. Let's get down there. Let's have a Minnesota Invitational in Des Moines, Iowa. There you go. That's a $1 million idea there, Jim.
Well, you've had $2 million ideas in short order here.
I'm rolling here.
That's fantastic.
And it's only Tuesday.
Wait until tomorrow.
Good grief! What will the future bring?
Well, I love the idea. No, that's a great idea. It's a fantastic idea.
Because it kind of sprang from. I always think of if you're in Proctor or Warroad or International Falls, and it's the spring, the weather is a lot nicer way down in southern Minnesota, in Albert Lee and Fairmont and Jackson and Laverne. There can be a huge difference in the weather. Then that kind of rolled into. Nathan was asking me, he knows I'm a Drake guy. He's never been down there. I was describing the stadium and Des Moines a little bit. And then we kind of thought, hey, how about this? And we'll see. I didn't get much reaction when I posted that on social media, but I tagged Drake University. I tagged the Drake Relays. I assume wheels are turning down there.
Well, if they aren't, they should be.
That's right.
So good, a great idea. I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, let's wrap up this edition of Preps Today with John Millea with the MSHSL's most valuable teammate.
Yeah, here we go. Kirsten Bailey of Anoka is a senior. She's been part of the swimming and diving team since 7th grade, standing out from the start with dedication and drive. Kirsten embraces hard work. She turns setbacks into motivation to improve. She shares her success with teammates, helping them build the same skills both mentally and physically to strengthen the team. Kirsten's hard work, leadership, and selflessness make her a true role model. Congrats to Kirsten Bailey of Anoka on being named a most valuable teammate.
Great show, John. Lots of good stuff. I love the Proctor stuff. I love the idea for I love the idea for the holiday shutdown. I love the idea for the Iowa track meet. Someone who competed in the Midwest in running. Any place I could go, it was warmer to run in the spring, I would take.
Yeah, you bet.
So good stuff.
All right.
So once again, thanks to John, thanks to Jody Stay and Pizza Barn, thanks to Aquarius Home Service Studios. We'll talk to you next week, and John will have $2 more $1 million ideas.
Spoken word artistry, that's what we call it.
That's what we got.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, John.